And you mentioned something important. When we talk about being global, when I started, it wasn't a coincidence that the name was PMO Global Alliance. Mm-hmm. So I was in Brazil, but actually since the very beginning, it wasn't about Brazil. Yeah. It was about the planet. And so we were very focused on this, spreading the word, around the globe. And this is something very important, because when we talk about a community, no one should be left behind. Of course, there will be some regions that are more mature, more evolved, but there are many regions that need us a lot, need us experienced professionals, so we can help a lot. And this is the spirit, because maybe it's not a place for business, a good business, but it's important because in the medium term, the long term, everything connects, so.
And when we were sitting in the car together, you mentioned not a lot of people would expect something like your organization to come from below the equator.
True.
Or around the equator. And I thought it was such a funny statement. But I think you're correct. It's we've been long waiting for this. The world is a global playground, and innovation can come from anyone and from anywhere. And I think this whole concept of hey, you're theoretically Brazil is a huge economy. This concept you're a developing country or whatever it is, I think is hogwash. I think if we really, and I think it's also part of the growing process for PMI that originally started in the United States. It still has a lot of its American DNA, but it's also a global company.
Absolutely.
And it has to embrace, and you can see if you look at the people who are on the board and yourself, PMI is embracing that internationality, and I think it's great. And I think there's a lot of other continents, for example, Africa, that will become more and more dominant also in the PMI, and I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely, and this is exactly the point. When I said that idea of below the equator line is because usually it's most of these initiatives, they started in the richest countries, Western Europe, US. So, but the fact that PMI acquired PMOGA, a company that was founded in Brazil, a global one, but founded in Brazil, it means a lot. Yeah. It means that first, PMI is open for what we are doing as a community. I'm a member, as anyone else. And these great initiatives, if they are good, if they are ethical, they can be recognized. It can be me in Brazil or anyone else in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in the US. So it shows, for me, it shows a lot. It shows that, hey, we see what's happening, and when it's something that can really contribute to the community, come on, be with us.
For those of our viewers who are saying, okay, I've never heard of the PM Cowboy, but I'm looking at this for the first time. I hope you've heard from America, but if you haven't, they might be asking themselves a question. Okay, I'm working in a PMO. What does this new initiative from PMI, actually an older initiative that is now under the umbrella of PMI,
exactly.
What do we have in store? Because you have lots of great things planned.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So many. So now in February, PMI launched its first publication on PMOs, the first one, that is the PMO Practice Guide. So this guide brings something really, really interesting, that is a new framework named PMO Value Ring. It's something that started to be developed at PMOGA before the acquisition. It was a kind of methodology, then it was improved, extended in the last 2 years, reviewed, leveraging the huge PMI community. And now we have a full framework, really powerful, and that's what people find in the new PMO Practice Guide. That is where the new PMI PMO CP, PMO Certified Professional Certification.
I'm applying this year.
Exactly. A gold standard PMI certification is grounded on this guide, right? So these are two great news, for the PMO community. Hundreds of people participated in the development of this material, of this guide. So I'm very proud of the results. And there is a lot of new things coming.
Before we get into the